All right, we're going to be going live here.
Good luck.
Thank you. Hello, Reynoldsburg. Welcome to another 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe. And not joining us at the moment is State Representative Rich Brown. He actually may be delayed a little while. Apparently, the House is going to be in session and they're going to be voting on really important things. So we'll get that information to you. Hopefully, he'll get here in the next moment or two. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and kick things off with some information about some events going on in Reynoldsburg over the next couple of weeks. We'll start off with our community cleanup days, starting not this weekend, but next weekend, June 5th through the 12th. We're going to have our litter contest. That's going to kick off. So anybody out there that would like to pick up litter and take a picture of you with the bag of garbage, go ahead and send it into the city and you'll be entered in to win fabulous prizes, including Ohio Select, as well as Starstruck, and a number of other issues all the way around. So hopefully you can make it with that. Let me just double check to make sure that we're all set with everything. Okay. Hopefully the state representative will be joining us here momentarily. We also have gift cards from Wendy's, Nothing Bundt Cakes, and Raiders Nutrition and Canes as well. So we'll have those going on. You may notice in certain areas that you've got some road work beginning. I noticed that they were out over about a week and a half ago, hitting some of the curbs up, and they were breaking them out. And I believe that crews are out actually on Priestley, which is one of the bigger projects the city will be taking on this year. So they're out on Priestley. So if you happen to see a lot of spray paint on your curbs and parts of your sidewalks, don't worry, they're not vandals. They're actually professionals getting that stuff taken care of. So keep that in mind. Main Street is also progressing. And again, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So kind of keep that in mind. The traffic is going to be there. Columbia Gas is continuing to work on some things. The water mains that we're working on to improve the VIX location have also been settled. So that's going on. So we've got that coming up as well. I've got a couple of other events. Memorial Day. Here we go. Let's see if we've got State Representative Rich Brown will be joining us hopefully here momentarily. There he is. State Representative Richard Brown, thank you for joining us. I hope we didn't pull you out of chambers to come here.
No, we have session at 1 o'clock, so I've got some time, but I'm right in between things. So I thank you for inviting me to be on the show, and I'm happy to be here today and talk about whatever issues you'd like to talk about.
All right, well, be careful you said that. So we'll go through with a couple of things.
No.
So I appreciate you coming in. For those of you that are unaware, State Representative Richard Brown is the Franklin County, a majority of the Franklin County portions representative at the State House. Rich and I have known each other for a number of years. We talked when I was on the school board. And so we've got a lot of things to kind of go over today. First off, I know the House has passed your form of the budget, but where are we at in the budget process in general? Can you provide any updates to everybody on that?
Yeah, the House passed its version of the budget recently, 70 to 27. There were 21 Democrats who voted no, and I was one of them. There were a number of reasons why we voted no. Basically, we didn't think that it gave enough money to working people and local communities, local government. There was also a 2% across the board tax cut, which on its face sounds interesting. It sounds good, but what it does is virtually nothing for any individual person. So if you're making 100,000 or under, your actual tax savings with this tax cut will be anywhere from $7 to maybe $25 or $30. You can make as much as $250,000, $250,000, and the tax savings for an individual making $250,000 would be $295. So individually, the tax cut really doesn't help anybody do anything of any substance. It's not going to make you or break you. You won't even know you got it. But what it does collectively is it keeps $380 million from the state coffers, money that can be used to assist people with childcare, to assist people with making college more affordable, to help deal with the business losses because of COVID, et cetera. So a lot of us were voted against the bill because of the lack of direction, because we felt it was more directed toward helping businesses rather than helping people. And we're not against helping businesses, but the values in the budget weren't values that are important to working families and to local governments. It actually cut money for local governments. It cut money for infectious disease control, things like that. Where it stands now is it's in the Senate and it's in committee. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen. And that's the truth. So it's sitting in committee. One of the good things about the budget was that it did include a big chunk of the school funding bill. Now, I'll sort of talk about the school funding bill in the context of the budget. The school funding bill was filed as a standalone bill, House Bill 1. And House Bill 1 is technically still pending in the House Finance Committee. Well, what they did was they took the bulk of what's in House Bill 1, the school funding bill, and they rolled it into or wrapped it into, incorporated it into the budget bill. And then we passed the budget bill. So the school funding bill is now stuck in the budget bill. Some of the hang up with passing the budget is because of the school funding portion of the budget bill. The Senate leader, Senator Hoffman, is not particularly keen on the whole thing, wants to change it. I know a lot of folks, professionals in the education community, from superintendents to teachers to school board members across the 20th district and Ohio, were pretty impressed with the school funding bill. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it is more flexible. It's not the fixed formula that the old bill was. It's a system which is more flexible. It's an evidence-based average cost of educating a particular student in a particular place. So a lot of folks like what it has to offer. And the problem was that the senator, who's kind of directing all this, thinks that it's going to cost more than the sponsors of the budget bill estimated. The estimate was it would be a $1.8 billion cost to the state. This senator believes it's going to be more of a $2.2 billion cost. And then there are some other issues that they have. You still have people arguing that the school districts in their district are going to be hurt more than others. You have folks in more rural areas saying that the rural schools still aren't getting their just due. You have folks in some districts saying that the big suburban districts are getting too much. Then you have other big suburban districts saying they're not getting enough. So you're always going to have this, but that's kind of what's going on. So there are other issues with the budget, but right now I think the primary thing that's sort of holding up everything is this ongoing debate over the school funding portion of the budget bill, which is a big chunk of it and an important aspect of it for sure. I know that if the school funding bill comes out of the Senate, and if it's in the same format and the same terms that it was when it left the House, it would mean for Reynoldsburg City Schools will get $1.5 million more than they would have before in the 21-22 academic year. And by the time the plan is fully implemented by 2027, Reynoldsburg would be getting 13.5 million more than they would have under the old plan. So this plan would benefit Reynoldsburg City Schools and frankly, most of the other school districts in my district, the 20th district, which encompasses Obet or the Hampton Township, Canal Winchester, the Reynoldsburg City Schools, the Whitehall Schools, and some Columbus City Schools as well. So, so that's kind of where the budget is at this time. Exactly how it unfold, we don't know.
Yeah, you're much more polite than I am. The senator doesn't believe in public education, which is really the biggest reason why he's not doing anything about it, even though it has been ruled unconstitutional. But, far be it for the Supreme Court to make a determination on things. I do appreciate the numbers. For those of you that are watching out there, keep in mind that the numbers of that 13.5 million over the next couple of years, 1.5 million a year, is actually money that the school should be getting right now that the district actually loses every year. So it's not, when people talk about the school funding as additional funds, it's actually not additional funds. It's actually funds the district should be getting in the first place. But because of a mysterious magical formula that nobody's ever been able to get a hold of, we are unable to get those funds. But I agree, there's a number of issues that are out there when it comes to the rural districts, making sure that they get their fair share of everything, because they don't have some of the same options that a Reynoldsburg does, or an Olentangy or Licking Heights, when it comes to some of their ability for property tax revenue. But I do appreciate your work on that. I know you're a big believer in the equalization of the school funding. I know that it is a bipartisan effort. This is not an R versus D thing. This is something that passed last year in the House, overwhelmingly, I think over 80 plus votes all the way across. So hopefully the Senate will understand it. And for those of you out there that are watching, feel free and email, call, send letters, anything you can to the Senate Education Committee, and tell them to do their actual duty and get a school funding plan that's constitutional for the first time in a long time. And it's things like that I can say that you can't right now. So I appreciate that. Now, I do want to ask about another thing. You submitted, I believe, something to do with school buses. Can you tell everybody about that, about your school bus bill?
Yeah, this is a bill. It's actually House Bill 70. And it's a bill that I submitted in the last General Assembly that moved through the committee process, but sort of died after that because of a whole bunch of other issues. But I resubmitted it, refiled it, and it's a bill that has four main components. Number one, it creates a statutory framework governing the use of external school bus video cameras to identify violators who pass school buses while the buses are loading or unloading children. The way the system works now is the burden is on the school bus driver, essentially, to identify a vehicle that illegally passes and then try to identify the driver of that vehicle. In order to actually cite a driver for a violation of the existing statutory code that says you can't pass the school bus when it's stopping to allow children on or off, in order to get a conviction against a particular individual, you have to have an identification of that person, not just the car. And it's hard enough for a school bus driver to do their job of just safely transporting children and deal with all the other stuff they have to deal with. In addition, trying to identify a vehicle that violates the law, and then specifically the driver of the vehicle. That can be virtually impossible or very difficult. And so more and more schools are now equipped with video cameras. Some are in the interior of the bus. Many are affixed to the extended arm that comes out from the bus that has the stop sign on it. And so we have now the video capability to more easily identify the violating vehicles and perhaps even the driver. The problem is that there were cases in Texas from a few years ago where there were literally thousands of convictions that were thrown out of court because they didn't have a statute which specifically allowed for the use of this type of video in the identification of violators. They cited some constitutional issues, but primarily it was because it wasn't incorporated into the statute. And there were other states that had similar problems. So my thought was, let's make it statutory in Ohio. So this bill would create a statute which specifically says if there is video camera footage available, it can be used to corroborate the testimony of the bus driver and or any other eyewitness as to the vehicle and the identity of the violator. If you can identify the violator, then you can charge them and cite them for the violation. if you can only identify the vehicle but not the driver, all you can do is give a warning. So what this bill does is it specifically allows the courts to make admissible and consider as admissible the video evidence that exists that may be used to identify the driver. Then the other thing it does is it increases the penalties. Current law is for a first offense, you can be fined for up to $500, and there can be what's called a Class 7 suspension, which is a suspension for a definite period up to 1 year. This is a driver's license suspension. That's for a first offense. And then for any additional offense by the same driver, there are no additional fine. It's the same fine. So you can do it 20 times and you cannot be subject to any additional fines. There's no enhanced or increased penalty for being a repeat violator. Under my bill, the fine for the first offense would go up to $1,000. Now, what this means is that's the maximum. The court still has the discretion, depending on all the circumstances, as to the amount of fine to be imposed, but it can't go up to $1,000, which doubles the maximum. The court also, I'm leaving the suspension the same. It's a Class 7 suspension, which means the court, and again, this is discretionary. The court doesn't have to do it, but if it chooses to suspend, it has to do it for at least 1 day up to 1 year. And again, it depends on the circumstances. So the judge has discretion, depending on the severity of the violation, the particular circumstances, to do what's right in that circumstance. In addition, though, my bill would enhance penalties if you're a violator who does it again. So if within 5 years of the first violation, you do it again, you can be fined up to $2,000, and the suspension would be increased to what's called a Class 6 suspension, which is a minimum driver's license suspension of 3 months up to 2 years and 4 points on your license. And then the final component of this bill is an educational component, and it would require all licensing deputy registrars at BMV places to display graphics that explain the law and the proper procedures that a driver should follow when a school bus stops and let children on or off. For example, a lot of times if you're on a 2-lane road, everyone knows you have to stop. If it's a 4-lane divided road, then there's different rules. If it's a 4-lane road but not divided, there are different rules, and people get confused. Do I have to stop or not? And sometimes people stop when they shouldn't, then they get rear-ended. All kinds of stuff happens. So the last component of the bill is this educational component, where whenever you go in to get your license, you're going to see posters and stuff around which educates people about it. Hopefully, more folks will know what the rules are. You would think people know, but they don't. And so it would help educate folks about it, make them aware of the consequences, and hopefully result in decreased incidences of accidents involving children as they get on or off school buses. Now, I know this hasn't been as big a deal this last year because we had COVID and we had, a virtual school. But as we get back to full-time school next year and more kids are going to school and riding buses, it becomes an issue all over again.
Well, we applaud you for that. I know we've had a number of concerns that have been brought to my office about, for ours, we don't have 4-lane roads, but what we have a couple of roads with schools on it that are 3 lanes. And so you have traffic on either side stop, but then you have that center lane, which this is actually going into an area where, you're having kids getting dropped off to the buildings themselves and you're having cars fly through all the way around. So obviously it is an issue. So I look forward to hopefully seeing that pass. One other question that I had for you before we go in, because I know we have at least one question that'll come out from our viewers out there. I know I've talked to Senator Jay Hottinger about this about 1.5 years ago, and when he was on the show earlier in the year, about sports betting. I know that one of the things that's out there is I know that they've taken some testimony. The big question at the time is, I think sports betting probably will be legalized in Ohio, but the question is, how is it going to be operated? Is it going to be operated by the casinos, or is it going to be operated by the lottery money? And then, of course, all things relating back to school funding with me. The idea is that if it is related to the lottery, is there going to be a mechanism that prevents the State House from taking funds away from education and then just saying that it's, the sports betting money goes in its place, that type of thing. Wait a second. You mentioned that they were worried about funding. Maybe perhaps this could help solve some of those funding issues. I'm sorry. Do you want to give me an update on those?
Yeah, first of all, there is a House plan, which is in its infancy. It's embryonic, you might say. And there really is not a bill yet. They've just had some interested party meetings and some discussions. And under the House plan, it would be primarily a creature of the Lottery Commission. But that plan is, like I say, it's embryonic. It's just getting started. The Senate has a more advanced plan offered by Senators Manning and Tani. It's already been assigned to a select or special committee on gaming. It was sent to the committee on May 12th of 2021. And so it's just getting underway in terms of hearings and stuff. Basically there are two types of licenses that will be issued. Type A licenses, which will be like online sports gambling situations, and you have to be licensed to put it online, and then you can participate in that. And then a B license will be a one sports gaming brick and mortar facility where people go in person and are able to bet, and like at sports bars, kinds of things. And in Ohio, the plan is there will be 20 A licenses issued around the state and 20 B licenses issued around the state. There will not be gaming or gambling in racinos or casinos, sports gaming or gambling. It will be either online or in these brick and mortar facilities unrelated to the casinos and racinos. At least that's the initial plan. In terms of the money, there will be an imposition of a 10% tax on sports gaming agents' net revenue from sports gaming. So a 10% tax on net revenue, which we don't know the number, but it could be huge. Of this 10%, so 10% goes to a special sports gaming revenue fund in the state treasury. And then of this 10% that goes into the sports gaming revenue fund, 98% of the 10% goes into a fund called the Sports Gaming Profit Education Fund, specifically to be used for K through 12 education purposes. And 2% is going to be transferred to what's called the Problem Sports Gaming and Addiction Fund. So that's where the money will go. So of the 10%, 98% is going to go to education, and only 2% to the other issue, which is problem sports gaming and addiction issues, which, you know, this could inspire, and some people already have. So if it comes out of the Senate in largely the same format that it is initially drafted, it could be financially beneficial to public schools in Ohio, another form of funding. But the devil's always in the details. As it goes through the committee process, there may be amendments and changes. And then as it gets to the Senate floor, there could be yet additional changes. And then it comes from the Senate back to the House as to whether or not there's concurrence. So there's plenty of room for this to change into something and morph into something else. But the initial plan and thought is to actually do something that could be beneficial to our public schools. And I applaud that and hope that it really ends up that way. It would be overseen primarily by the Casino Control Commission, although the Lottery Commission would play a role as well. And they're still trying to work out exactly what the relationship be and how much control there would be between the Lottery Commission and the Casino Control Commission. Right now in the Senate, I believe that they're leaning toward giving the casinos more control over it than the lottery, but we'll see how that actually happens.
I wonder why that is. No, I'm sorry, I'll stop. So I appreciate that. That's really good information. I know that's something that we'll be looking around. All right, now everybody's favorite time obviously is question and answer time. So do we have a couple of questions, Jennifer?
We sure do. One's asking, what actions can everyday citizens help to improve your chances of your House bill passing?
Well,
For the school bus bill, I would assume?
Yes, the House Bill
Yes.
70.
House Bill 70.
yeah, the school bus bill. Yeah, we will post things on my state rep Facebook page and also my personal Facebook page about the bill. And merely liking it or saying this is a good idea just helps spread the word. Sharing any posts that are social media posts that are made about it helps. There will be press releases as well. People can come to when there are hearings. We generally give some indication publicly of when the bill is coming up for a sponsor testimony, for proponent testimony. If people are proponents, you can offer and come down and testify live at the State House that you agree with and support the bill. You could be a bus driver, you could be a school employer, you could just be an average citizen who just has an interest in it and wants to see their kids be able to get on and off the bus safely without worrying about being struck by a vehicle driven by someone who's not paying attention. So there are a number of ways that you can be helpful, and every citizen is entitled to come and testify. If you do, there's a form you fill out, just giving your name and address and the subject matter about which you want to testify, and it can be done. You can call my office, my state rep office, and say you're interested and asked to be advised, specifically asked to be advised about the bill and when it's coming for hearing, and we can do that as well. And we'll make public announcements as well. So those are some of the things that you can do.
Sounds good. Next.
It says, prior to COVID, what were stats for accidents?
I don't have those at my fingertips, but it was more frequent than you would think. And there have been, I wish I had that. I do have that available. I just don't have it at my fingertips as I'm sitting here. But I know that there were a number of children killed in Ohio. And recently there were in Indiana about a year and a half ago, there were 4 kids killed in one incident. They were all siblings. And so it does happen. It doesn't happen frequently where someone's killed, but there are kids who get injured and killed. And it happens more frequently than you would like to see. And more scary, there are a lot of close calls that people don't know about where kids just barely miss getting hit and struck. So too many for comfort. And but if one kid gets hurt, I think that's one too many. And if one child gets killed, that's one too many. And obviously you can't stop everybody from violating the law, but you can certainly make it more onerous on them if they do. People, you just need to be more aware of your surroundings. Get off the phone. Don't be texting. Pay attention, particularly when there's a school bus in the area. You're approaching a school zone. School bus safety is vitally important to parents and children. Whether you go to a public school or a private school, it doesn't matter. It's important to all of us, and so it affects everybody in the entire state. So it's an important bill, and one that I hope this time actually gets passed.
I'm sure we'll get some people out there to do it. I did have one other question that just kind of came in late. It's about gerrymandering. We all know that we're waiting on the census results that we're not going to get till sometime later this year. And those census results are going to be used to establish not only the state house districts, state senate, but then also congressional districts and things of that nature. There's been a lot of conversation back and forth about what gerrymandering is. If for those of you watching, if you've not looked at some of the way that districts are broken up, feel free and take a look at them. Ohio is not the only state that has very unique demographics and boundaries for these things. Some might say that they're not necessarily promoting, democracy. I might be saying that too. But when it comes to those things, where are we at? Have you heard anything? What's the latest news from the State House about how this redistricting is going to work?
Well, the latest news is we believe that we're going to get the federal census data in. It's going to be late, but we believe we're going to get it in time to adhere to the schedule, which was set forth a long time ago. The way it works with regard to the state legislative maps, you got to understand we have two sets of maps. One is for the state legislature, which is the state representative districts, the House districts, and also the state Senate districts. And then you have a federal map, which is the United States Congress, the congressional maps for the United States House of Representatives. And right now there are 16 U.S. representatives in Ohio, but we're going to lose a seat and we're going to be down to 15. So we know that for sure. We're still going to have 99 House districts, but how they're arranged will be different. And we don't know exactly how that's going to happen. But with regard to the state legislative map, dealing with the Ohio House and Ohio Senate, there's a 7-member redistricting committee made up of 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats that are responsible for drawing Ohio's legislative map for state legislative districts. And it's made up of the governor, the state auditor, the secretary of the state of Ohio, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate president. And all of these folks are Republican. And then it's made up of the House Minority Leader and the Senate Minority Leader, who are Democrats. And the first step is trying to get maps drawn that people agree on or before September 1 of 2021 in order to pass a map that would last for 10 years. There would have to be support of 4 more members of the 7-member redistricting committee, including both Democrats. So if both Democrats did not agree, then that step 1 wouldn't be completed and there would not be a 10-year map. In that case, you go to step 2 and you have until September 15 or 15 days later to try to complete this step, which would again require at least 4 or more members, including both Democrats, to agree if you want a 10-year map. So in other words, you get a second bite at the apple after you try to work it out again. It's the same concept. If you get agreement of 4 people on the committee, including both Democrats, so it would have to be 2 Ds and 2 Rs at least, then you can get a 10-year map. If that doesn't work, then you have to go to a 4-year map. In other words, a map where the districts would only be in place for 4 years. And this is basically if neither Democrat or only one Democrat agrees to the way the maps are drawn, ultimately you get to the point where you only have a 4-year map. So that's with regard to the state house districts and the Senate and the Ohio Senate and the Ohio House. I personally think it's going to be very difficult to get agreement. I don't think we're going to have a 10-year map. I think it's going to be a 4-year map because I think that they're going to gerrymander. You know, they're supposed to have maps that do not favor one party over another. These are the alleged criteria. They're supposed to have maps that have representational fairness based on the preferences of Ohio voters from the preceding decade. But this doesn't always, these are salutary criteria, but they don't always come to fruition. And so the likelihood is that we're not going to get that. So frankly, I'm not super hopeful. I mean, I'm hoping it will be better than it has been, but we'll see. Time will tell. If we get a 10-year map, I'll be surprised. I'll be happy that I'm surprised, because if we get a 10-year map, that means that it's a lot more fair than it has been. Because in Ohio, we have essentially 52% registered Republicans and 48% registered Democrats around the state. It was 50-50 just a few years ago. Now it's like 52-48 with Republicans at 52, Democrats at 48. But Democrats only hold 35 seats in the Ohio House. Republicans have 64. So there's a 2/3, 1/3 kind of split. So we're a super minority. And in the Senate, there's 8 Democrats and there's 33 total. So there's 25 Republicans. So again, the Democrats are in a super minority in both the House and the Senate in the state of Ohio, which makes it difficult for us to do things that we like to do, would want to do for our constituents and for the people of Ohio. And it's clear that we have gerrymandering because we don't have fair representation. I mean, they have 2/3 of the seats in the legislature, but they come from a party which only makes up 58% or 52% of the body politic. So it's not fair. It's gerrymandered. You have districts that are obviously safe districts that have a 80-85% rating, so that there's almost no way they can be beat. And this leads to people coming into the legislature who speak for and can speak for a very either right wing or left wing proposition and be out there, if you will. And without really being answerable, because they can basically do anything they want and not lose their seat. So it makes for a more divisive legislature, which is unfortunate. And it makes it more difficult to pass legislation that's beneficial to all of Ohioans. Although we do, I think, a pretty good job of, we do a much better job at the state level than at the federal level of working together and passing bipartisan laws which benefit Ohioans. We do a fair amount of that, a lot more than people think, and a lot more than at the federal level. We have our differences on occasion, but we more often than not, we agree.
I think my biggest issue before we, because I know you've got to go back out in just a little while. I know my biggest issue is that most Americans, most Ohioans actually do agree on a majority of the issues, but then it becomes a political thing where you have a district that, like you said, is so far to one side or the other that the extremes then dictate the views. And then the reality is that there's issues with the sides working together from the farthest of the extremes. And that's not necessarily beneficial to the people of Ohio in general. And I'm sure you and I could probably go on for quite some time on that one, but I know that you were on a time limit, and I'm very appreciative of everything that you were able to speak with us today. Do we have any last second questions to come in? Okay, so you bypassed the rest of the questions.
Yes.
This is a wonderful thing. I'm very happy that you're able to do this. I know you were one of my first guests last year when we were just in the early stages of COVID, and I'm glad that everybody seems to be moving on from that. If you're welcome to stay for the next few minutes, but like I said, I know you have to go. You've got a session coming up soon. So again, thank you, State Representative Richard Brown, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mayor Begney. I do have to go. The Speaker of the House called me when I was on this call and wants to talk to me. So the principal wants to talk to me, so I better go.
All right.
For the opportunity, and my pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody, that was State Representative Rich Brown. He is your representative for the city of Reynoldsburg on the Franklin County side. You are more than welcome to reach out to him, especially if you have things that you would like to support, specifically at the school bus bill, House Bill 70. Also, starting off for next week, we'll get into some of the events on Monday at 11 o'clock at the Memorial Plaza, which is on the corner of Main and Lancaster. We will be holding our Memorial Day ceremony. We will have members of the American Legion, the VFW, our Military Recognition Commission, Reynoldsburg City Schools, including 2 students that are confirmed to show up that are going to be joining the military upon graduation, as well as the city of Reynoldsburg. It will be broadcast on Facebook, and the ceremony will probably last about a half an hour or so. But again, it's a brief moment of your time to honor those on Memorial Day weekend. So we hope to see you there. Continuing with our patriotic theme, fireworks are a go for July 2nd. If you haven't heard, we're very excited about this. We're going to have parking at Civic Park. So you're going to want to get there early. The gates will open at 6:30 p.m. For you to be there for that. It's going to look a little bit different than it has in the past. There are no bounce houses this year. Too hard to clean those with some of the restrictions that are out there, even with COVID, to keep things safe and all the way across. But we are going to have at least one live band playing some good music. I've heard they're fabulous, so we'll just leave it at that. We'll hear what that is later. We'll also have some food trucks on site as well. So you can grab a bite to eat and relax, listen to some music, and then see the fireworks. We will also have some music accompanying the fireworks as well for the first time, so that's going to be exciting. Then you're going to turn around bright and early the next day and get ready for the 4th of July parade along our usual route from the Reynoldsburg Community Association is going to go ahead and lead that off at 10 a.m. Hope to see you there. We are actually talking about what the city is going to do. We're actually going to have a city float this year, as well as a few other things. So keep an eye out for that. If you're a business, you have a few weeks left to go to register. They're not charging you, but they are charging the politicians. So yay. So we've got that going on. So keep that in mind. We also have our Artist and Makers Market that will be on June 5th from 11 to 6 at the Livingston House. I'm very excited about that. This is something brand new to the city of Reynoldsburg, so you'll probably want to go out and see that. You're also, you might have seen some of the farmers market signs. Those are coming up. Farmers market will be not next Thursday, but the Thursday after at JFK Park. So you're going to enjoy that, and the farmers market will be out there. Following that in June, again, it's a jam-packed month of June. We are going to have a June 19th ceremony, a Juneteenth celebration at Huber Park from approximately 12 to 3 is when a majority of it will start, but there will be a 5K earlier in the day. The African American Wellness Initiative will be there doing some health screenings, and then we'll have healthy food from the food trucks that will be there later, as well as performances from local dance organizations as well. So we've got that, and who knows what else is going to pop up in June. I would also like at this time to thank all of you that came out to the Civic Park discussion this past Saturday with Councilwoman Shanette Strickland and Councilman Stacy Baker. We had a really good conversation about potential improvements at Civic Park and what would go there. Frisbee golf, we had some passionate people out there for Frisbee golf, and some things about some of our dog parks, as well as some extending some trails and all those other good things. Some great conversation, really appreciate it. I think we had probably close to about 30 people out there at the time for that. So we're really excited. Now we have another food fundraiser. This is the Reynoldsburg Historical Society. We'll have a Max and Irma's fundraiser on June 23rd from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. They're going to have a little certificate that you can look at their Facebook page, or if you're a member of the Historical Society, you can see that. Bring that in and donate some money to the Reynoldsburg Historical Society. We also have the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation Mulligan Golf Tournament starting the week of June 6th through Friday, June 11th. It's $90 per golfer, or you can just make a specific donation. But you can go ahead and do that. That information is out there. And the Reynoldsburg Wrestling Program will be sponsoring a golf outing on July 24th at Safari Golf Club. It's a shotgun style. It's $100 per player or $400 per team. You can find, again, that information to register on Facebook. We do have a blessing box update. Please keep an eye out for those blessing boxes, especially now that school is winding down. The need may be greater for those that have kids at home during the day. So keep an eye out for that. If you'd like to make donations, again, non-perishable items at any of our many locations of blessing boxes throughout the city of Reynoldsburg. Do have a little bit of development news. Tomorrow you will see we've talked about this before, the development that's going across the street from the Department of Agriculture on Main Street. Their first phase is going to go in. That's with some senior living and some apartments that are out there. Those are not part of Reynoldsburg City Schools, but it will be part of Reynoldsburg City. The diagrams and pictures and all of that will be up in the not too distant future on the agenda to take a look at that, as well as working with the commercial component that will be in the front part of that Main Street area. So you're looking, basically office and most likely lots of restaurant space, things like that for those of us that live on the eastern side of Reynoldsburg. So that will be up there. I'd like to take this moment to do a shout out to the Reynoldsburg graduating class of 2021. They're going to be going through graduation next week, which is why the 12 o'clock show is going to be a little bit later than usual next week. We're actually going to put it to 12:30 instead of 12 o'clock, where we will have State Representative Erica Crawley will be joining us. We're hitting a lot of our state representatives all the way across. It takes a little bit of our Franklin County side, as well as Chuck Cochran from the Reynoldsburg Community Association. Pretty sure he's going to talk about that 4th of July parade and give us some really good information with that. Before I sign off, we'll ask if there are any questions, anything out there? Not at this time. All right. So for the rest of you, again, have a wonderful, safe Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy. Hope you can come out to the ceremony or at least watch on Facebook. Again, that'll be 11 o'clock at Memorial Plaza on the corner of Main and Lancaster. Everybody else, please go out. Make sure you enjoy the restaurants that we've got locally. I know Prost, Tempe Taco, Vic's got some great things going on. Tip your servers. And as always, stay safe, respectful, and please put your shopping carts away. It's not that hard. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next week.